Imagine being stuck 30,000 feet in the air with the last person on Earth you ever wanted to see again. Sarah Mitchell thought she had moved on. 4 years is a long time, after all. But when your 8-year-old looks up at you with those big, honest eyes and asks, "Mom, is that why you hate flying?" Well, some things just refuse to stay buried. The boarding announcement echoed through Terminal C. Sarah's hands were already trembling, and the plane hadn't even moved yet. She stared at the boarding pass like it had personally wronged her. Gate 19A, Flight 312 to Portland, departure at 2:40 in the afternoon. Simple enough on paper, absolutely terrifying in real life. "Mommy, why are your hands doing that?" her daughter Maya asked, tugging at her sleeve the way only a determined 8-year-old can. Sarah forced a smile, the kind that looked convincing to everyone except the one person she'd raised. "Just happy to see Grandma, baby." Maya tilted her head. "You don't look happy. You look like how I feel before the dentist." Kids, Sarah thought, brutally, perfectly honest. The truth was, she hadn't stepped foot on a plane in 4 years, not since everything in her life quietly fell apart. She'd been driving everywhere since then, long road trips, elaborate detours. Her friends called it quirky, her journal knew better. "Flight 312 to Portland, now boarding Group A," the gate agent announced with that cheerful, rehearsed voice they all seemed to share. Sarah's heart knocked against her chest. She could still leave, drive to Portland instead. It was only about 11 hours, maybe 13 with stops. Maya would understand. "That's us!" Maya bounced on her heels, hugging her stuffed rabbit tight. "We're Group A, Mom, let's go!" No backing out now. Sarah's mom had been planning this visit for months. Maya had a little countdown going on her bedroom calendar, little stickers marking off each day. Sarah couldn't let her down just because she was terrified of being sealed inside a metal tube miles above the ground. "It's just a flight," she whispered to herself, the same small lie she'd been repeating for weeks. 2 hours. You can do anything for 2 hours. They joined the line moving toward the gate. Sarah's palms were damp. She gripped Maya's hand anyway. Around them, people chatted, scrolled phones, laughed. Everyone looked so easy about it, so normal, so unbothered. "Boarding passes, please," the gate agent said warmly. Sarah handed them over. Her hand shook just enough to notice. The agent looked up with kind eyes. "Nervous flyer?" "A little," Sarah admitted. "You've got great weather today, smooth skies the whole way." If only the weather were the problem. They walked down the jet bridge, Maya talking nonstop about clouds and how tiny everything would look from way up high. Sarah focused on her breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. She had an app for this. The app was not helping. The plane door appeared ahead like the entrance to somewhere she wasn't sure she was ready to go. She could hear voices inside, warm, professional, welcoming voices. "Just get to the seat," she told herself. "Buckle in, close your eyes. It'll be over soon." She stepped aboard. The smell hit her first, that familiar mix of cool, recycled air and something faintly metallic that immediately pulled at a memory she kept locked away. She pushed it back down. "Seats 14A and 14B, she murmured, checking the boarding pass again, even though she already knew. "Window seat?" Maya darted ahead without hesitation, weaving past rolling carry-ons with the confidence only children seem to possess. Sarah followed, eyes low, focused on the carpet pattern beneath her feet. Just get to the row, just sit down, just breathe. Row 10, row 11, row 12. "Can I help you find your seats?" Sarah stopped. That voice, she knew it immediately, the way you know a song from just the first note. Warm, soft, with the slightest southern lilt. A voice she spent 4 years trying to forget. A voice that used to say her name like it meant something. She turned slowly, already hoping she was wrong. She wasn't. Standing just a few feet away, in a neat navy uniform, hair pinned back, green eyes wide with unmistakable surprise, was the one person Sarah never expected to see again. The airplane felt like it shrank by half. Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at the woman who had walked out of her life without a single word. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. "Mom?" Maya's voice felt like it was coming from another room entirely. "Mom, you look really pale." Sarah opened her mouth. Nothing came out. 4 years of carefully built distance. 4 years of telling herself she was fine, that she had moved on, that this particular chapter of her life was closed and filed away somewhere she didn't have to look at anymore. All of it, gone in about 3 seconds. The flight attendant's eyes moved between Sarah and Maya, and Sarah could see the exact moment it registered on her face. "You have a daughter," she said softly. Something in her voice, surprise, maybe, or something older and heavier than surprise. "Mommy, who is she?" Maya tugged on Sarah's sleeve again. Sarah found her voice, barely. This is an old friend. She's going to help us find our seats." The boarding pass exchange was brief. The flight attendant's hands weren't entirely steady either, though she kept her expression carefully composed. "14A and 14B, she said. "Follow me." Sarah followed. Maya skipped ahead, delighted with everything, completely unaware of the strange, charged silence moving along behind her. "Here you are," the flight attendant said, stopping at their row. "Window seat for the little one?" "Please," Sarah managed. Maya was already in it, face pressed to the glass. "Mom, I can see all the luggage carts. They're so tiny." Sarah slid into the middle seat. The aisle seat next to her was empty. The flight attendant was still standing there, and Sarah became very aware of the familiar scent, something warm and floral she had spent a long time trying to forget, still exactly the same after all this time. "Can I get you anything before we take off?" Professional, careful, the voice of someone trying very hard to sound like a stranger. "We're fine," Sarah said quickly. "Thank you." But she didn't leave immediately. She stood there for just a moment longer and then leaned down slightly, low enough that only Sarah could hear. "I can't believe you're here." Sarah's chest pulled tight. "I can't believe you are either." "Ladies and gentlemen, we're completing the boarding process." The captain's voice came through the speakers, calm and routine. "Flight attendants, please prepare for departure." She straightened immediately. The moment closed like a door. "I'll check on you during the flight," she said quietly, and then she was gone, moving back up the aisle, shoulders set, not quite looking back, but almost. "She seems really nice," Maya said, still gazing out the window. "Do you know her from somewhere?" Sarah's throat was dry. "Sort of, yes." More passengers moved past. Bags were lifted and stowed. The safety demonstration began. Sarah focused on helping Maya with her seatbelt, on watching the flight attendant at the front of the cabin go through the familiar routine with her colleagues, efficient and calm, and graceful in the way Sarah had always remembered. Every few minutes, their eyes would meet briefly across the cabin, and then one of them would look away. "This is the last thing I needed today," Sarah thought. Of all the flights, of all the airlines, of all the people. "Mom, you're breathing weird," Maya said matter-of-factly. Sarah realized she was right. "I'm fine, love, just excited." "You keep saying that, but you look more scared than excited." Scared doesn't even come close, Sarah thought. The plane began to move. Sarah's grip tightened on the armrest. She had forgotten how much she hated this part. The slow taxi, the gathering speed, the moment the ground simply stopped being there. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're next for takeoff." Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about her mom's cooking, about Maya's school project, about the grocery list she'd left sitting on the counter at home. Anything to fill the space in her head that kept drifting toward the woman in the Navy uniform. The engines rose to a roar, the plane accelerated, and then that stomach-dropping moment when the ground fell away and there was nothing beneath them but a very long way down. "Wow!" Maya was glued to the window. "Everything looks like a toy set." Sarah kept her eyes shut until the seatbelt sign chimed off. When she finally opened them, she found the flight attendant near the front of the cabin, moving through the post-takeoff routine with quiet efficiency. But every so often she'd glance toward row 14, and for just a second their eyes would meet. "Can I have some juice?" Maya asked. "We'll wait for the cart, love." But Sarah wasn't really thinking about juice. She was thinking about 4 years ago, about the last conversation, about coming home the next day to a half-empty apartment and a note on the kitchen cable, short enough to read in 5 seconds and long enough to take months to recover from. "I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this. Please don't look for me." That was it. 2 years of a life together, and that was the whole goodbye. "Excuse me, can I get you both something to drink?" Sarah looked up. The drink cart had arrived, and behind it, expression carefully neutral, eyes anything but, was the one person on Earth she hadn't expected to see today. "Juice, please," Maya said immediately, already reaching for the cup.
"And for you?" the familiar voice asked. Sarah looked up. Those green eyes were carefully neutral now, professional, practiced. "Just water, please," Sarah managed. The pour was steady, but Sarah noticed the way she pressed her lips together slightly, a small, quiet habit that brought back more memories than Sarah was ready for. "Here you go." Their fingers touched for just a second during the handoff. Just a second, but Sarah felt it all the way through her. "Thank you," she whispered. The cart moved on, but the weight of everything unspoken seemed to stay right there, hovering in the air between the rows like something with its own presence. "Mom," Maya said suddenly. Sarah turned. "Is that the lady who made you stop flying?" The cup slipped. Water and ice hit the floor in one cold scatter. A few nearby passengers looked over. So did the flight attendant, who had stopped mid-pour at the row behind them. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, willing her voice to stay level. Maya's eyes were steady and searching. "You got really weird when you saw her, and you're doing the face, the one you make when you're trying not to cry, like during sad movies." Sarah felt the quiet attention of everyone within 3 rows. The flight attendant had set the cart still and was walking back toward them now, her expression soft with concern. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently. Maya looked between the two of them with the focused expression of a child quietly solving a puzzle she didn't have all the pieces to yet. "Is that the lady who made you stop flying?" The cabin went still. Sarah felt the air leave her lungs. The flight attendant stood beside the row, pale beneath her composed expression, completely silent. "Maya, sweetheart," Sarah started, her voice catching. "It's not that simple, it's—" But Maya didn't let go. She had Sarah's persistence. Anyone who knew them both could see it. "But you used to fly," Maya continued, her tone curious and unhurried. "Grandma showed me old photos of you on planes, and then you just stopped, and now you're shaky, and it started the second you saw her." Sarah wished she could dissolve into the seat cushion. "Perhaps I could," the flight attendant began, clearly trying to find a gentle way through the moment. "Were you my mom's friend?" Maya asked, turning those full, focused eyes upward. Something flickered across the flight attendant's face, just briefly. "We knew each other a while back." "How long?" "Maya, that's enough," Sarah said quietly but firmly. Maya paused, then, "Were you friends before I was born?" The flight attendant's eyes lifted and met Sarah's, and in that look was something Sarah recognized because she had felt it herself for 4 years. The heaviness of silence, of things left unsaid, of a story that ended before it had any real ending. "Yes," she said softly, "we were friends before you were born." "Close friends?" Sarah's chest pulled tight. "Maya—" "Pretty close," the flight attendant answered, and her voice, just for a moment, lost its professional steadiness. Maya nodded slowly, like she was confirming something she had already quietly decided. "And then something happened, and you stopped, and that's why Mom doesn't like airplanes." Not a guess, a conclusion, delivered with the calm, complete confidence of a child who has just figured something out. It landed on Sarah like something heavy and unavoidable. "I should get back," the flight attendant said quickly, her composure sliding back into place like a mask she'd worn so long it almost fit perfectly. "Let me know if you need anything." She was gone before Sarah could say a word. Maya looked up. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, baby," Sarah pulled her close. "You didn't do anything wrong. Grown-ups just have feelings that are hard to explain sometimes." "Were you sad when you stopped being friends?" Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered those weeks, not eating, not sleeping, moving out of a place that had too many memories pressed into every corner, crying until there was simply nothing left. "Yes," she said quietly, "I was really sad. Is that why flying feels bad? Because it makes you think about her?" Sarah looked at her daughter, really looked. When had she gotten so perceptive? When had she started reading people like this? "Flying brings up a lot of things," Sarah said carefully. "Some of them are sad things, yes." Maya sat with that for a moment, very serious. "But if you talked to her, maybe the sad part would go away?" I almost smiled. "It's not always that easy, love." "But sometimes it is," Maya said, completely certain. "Like with me and Sophie, she took my marker and I was really upset, but we talked about it and now she's my best friend." "This is a little different than a marker." "Why?" "Because she left. Because there was no goodbye, no explanation, no reason given. Because I gave 2 years of my life to something I thought was permanent, and then one day it just wasn't there anymore." "Because grown-up friendships are more complicated," Sarah said. Maya frowned. "How?"
Sarah never got to answer. The plane jolted, a sharp, sudden dip that made the cabin gasp all at once. Sarah's hands locked onto the armrests, knuckles draining of color immediately. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're hitting a bit of rough air." The captain's voice came through the speakers, calm and unhurried. "Please make sure your seatbelts are fastened." The plane shuddered again, harder. Sarah's breathing went short and fast. She hated this, the loss of control, the feeling of being completely at the mercy of something she couldn't see or understand or stop. "Mom?" Maya's voice had changed. The curiosity was gone. Now there was worry. Sarah couldn't respond. The plane dropped, just slightly, just for a second, but it was enough. Her vision started to narrow at the edges. Her chest tightened in a way she recognized and dreaded. "Not here. Please not here. Not in front of Maya. Not in front of everyone." "Hey." A hand touched her shoulder. Gentle, steady. She looked up. The flight attendant was crouched beside her seat, eyes level with hers. All the professional distance from before was gone now. What replaced it was something much older and much quieter. "Look at me," she said softly. "Just right here. Look at me." Sarah looked. "Breathe with me. In through your nose. Hold it. Now out slowly." She knows exactly how to do this, Sarah realized. She's done this before. With me. "That's it," the soft voice continued. "Stay with me. It's just bumpy air. The plane is fine. You're fine." The shaking slowed, the cabin steadied, and slowly, breath by breath, Sarah came back to herself. The hand on her shoulder didn't move. "Better?" It was barely above a whisper. Sarah nodded. "Is my mom okay?" Maya asked, leaning forward with wide, serious eyes. "She's okay," the flight attendant said gently. "Flying can make some people nervous. That's completely normal. Your mom is actually really brave for being on this plane today." Maya studied the two of them. "You're really good at calming her down." A pause. The hand on Sarah's shoulder shifted almost imperceptibly. "I used to be," she said quietly. The words settled into the space between them like something fragile. Then the turbulence returned. A long, rolling shudder this time, the overhead compartments trembling with it. Sarah's grip tightened on the armrest. Without a word, the flight attendant moved to the empty aisle seat across from them and buckled herself in as the seatbelt sign chimed on overhead.
I should be working, she murmured, but she didn't move. The others can manage, Sarah said, surprising herself. Her voice was still unsteady, but the words came out anyway. You were always the one who worried too much about the rules. Something crossed the flight attendant's face, brief and honest. Not always. The plane bumped again, and Maya grabbed Sarah's hand with both of hers. I don't like this part. It's okay, Sarah said, squeezing back, like driving on a road that hasn't been paved yet, just a little rough. Except we're really, really high up, Maya said flatly. Your mom's right, though, the flight attendant said, leaning forward slightly. The pilots train for this for years. They've handled things far worse than a bit of turbulence. They know exactly what they're doing. Maya turned to her. How do you know? Because I've been doing this job for 6 years. I've seen a lot, and we always land safely. 6 years. Sarah did the quiet math without meaning to. That meant she had started right after everything. Did you always want to do this job? Maya asked. She had fully adopted the flight attendant as a conversation partner now. The green eyes flicked briefly to Sarah before answering. No, actually, I kind of ended up here. Ended up here or ran here, Sarah thought. What did you want to do before? Maya pressed. Teach, she said. The word came out softly. Elementary school. I loved the idea of it. Little kids learning things for the very first time. Sarah's chest pulled tight. She remembered that. Late-night conversations about classrooms and lesson plans and making a real difference. She remembered it the way you remember something that used to belong to you. Why didn't you? Maya asked. The green eyes met Sarah's again, and there was something in them that looked a lot like the answer to a question Sarah had carried for 4 years. Life didn't go the way I thought it would, she said quietly. The plane lurched, hard this time, real gasps around the cabin, bags shifting, a child crying 2 rows back. Sarah's breathing dissolved instantly. And then a hand reached across the aisle and found hers. The shock of it moved through her like something electric. 4 years folded up and disappeared in a single second. She was somewhere else entirely, somewhere warmer, somewhere that used to feel like home. Breathe, came the quiet voice. Count down from 10. Slow. Sarah closed her eyes and started counting. 10. The plane shook again, but she kept going. 9. 8. The hand across the aisle was warm and completely still. 7. 6. 5. She focused on that, just that. 4. The hand was still holding hers. Neither of them had let go. You still remember how to do that, Sarah said. It wasn't really a question. I remember a lot of things, came the reply, and the way it was said, quiet, unguarded, carried more weight than the words themselves. Then why? You two are holding hands, Maya announced, perfectly casual, as if reporting the weather. The hand pulled back immediately, a flush of color. I was helping your mom with her nerves, the flight attendant said, evenly. She gets nervous a lot, especially on planes. And sometimes when she thinks I'm not watching, she gets sad and looks at old photos on her phone. Sarah felt warmth creep up her neck. What kind of photos? The flight attendant asked. Her voice was careful, quiet. Of her and another lady. They're always smiling in them, but Mom puts the phone away really fast when she notices me looking. Sarah stared straight ahead. Of all the moments, of all the places. Maya, that's enough, she said, softly but clearly. But the flight attendant was already looking at her, with an expression Sarah couldn't quite name. You kept photos? Sarah opened her mouth to say something deflecting and easy. What came out instead was, I kept a lot of things I probably shouldn't have. The words landed between them and just sat there. The flight attendant looked away first, blinking once, quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're through the rough patch, the captain announced overhead. Flight attendants, you're free to move around the cabin. She unbuckled her seatbelt, but she didn't stand up. She should get back, she said. Should, Sarah repeated. But do you want to? The question was simple. It was also not simple at all. A long pause, hands pressed together in her lap. What I want and what I should do haven't lined up in a really long time, she said finally. Why? The word came out before Sarah could decide whether to say it. Why did you just leave? No call, no explanation, nothing. Why did you walk away from everything without saying a single word? The composed expression faltered, just slightly, but enough. I can't do this here, not like this. Then when? 4 years of quiet hurt pressed into 2 words. When exactly is the right time? Mom, you're crying. Sarah reached up and touched her face. Her daughter was right. She hadn't even felt it happening. I'm sorry, she whispered. She wasn't entirely sure who she was saying it to. The flight attendant stood, smoothed her uniform. The professional steadiness came back like a door closing. I do need to get back to work. A breath. But maybe after we land, we could talk, properly. Sarah nodded. She didn't trust her voice just then. Maya looked up with hopeful eyes. Are you going to be friends again? The flight attendant looked down at her for a moment, and whatever careful wall she'd been maintaining quietly gave way. I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that take a long time to sort out. But you could try, Maya said simply. The green eyes lifted and met Sarah's one last time. Yeah, she said, softly. We could try. About an hour passed. Sarah had drifted into a restless half-sleep when she felt the seat beside her shift. She opened her eyes. The flight attendant was settling in, calm and deliberate. The gentleman here offered to switch. I told him I needed to check on a nervous flyer. A pause. Is this okay? She glanced over. Maya was sound asleep against the window, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm, completely at peace with the world. She could sleep through anything, Sarah said quietly. She's wonderful, the flight attendant said, looking at her. She has your expressions. Everyone says that. A small silence. Then Sarah added, her dad was never really in the picture. It's just been the 2 of us. Something moved across the flight attendant's face briefly. It looked almost like relief, though she didn't say anything. What's her name? Maya. Maya Rose. A soft breath. You always loved that name. Sarah's throat tightened. You remember that? I told you, she said. I remember everything. A quiet settled between them. Then she exhaled slowly. Sarah, about what happened, you left. The words came out steadier than Sarah expected. 4 years of carrying them and they finally had somewhere to go. You packed your things and walked out. No conversation, no explanation, like none of it ever happened, like I didn't matter. That's not... She stopped, pressed her fingers to her forehead. I don't even know where to begin. Begin with why, Sarah said simply. Just start there. The silence stretched long enough that Sarah wasn't sure she'd get an answer. When it came, it was barely above a whisper. Do you remember our last fight? Sarah's stomach pulled tight. Of course she did. She'd turned that night over in her mind more times than she could count. You said you wanted more, Sarah said. You wanted us to make real commitments, talk about a future, and I said I needed more time. And I said I was tired of waiting, tired of feeling like you weren't sure about us. I was scared, Sarah said. 2 years felt fast to me. I thought we had more time. I thought we'd figure it out together. I gave you an ultimatum. Her voice was low and ashamed. I was young and impatient, and I actually thought that if I pushed hard enough, you'd realize you didn't want to lose me, that it would make everything clear for you. But it didn't. No, you said you needed space, time to think. She paused, and I said maybe we should step back, figure out what we both actually wanted. Sarah remembered the exact expression on her face when those words left her mouth, the way something behind her eyes had shifted. I didn't mean it, she said quietly. I was scared and saying things I didn't mean. I thought we'd have a few days apart, calm down, and then talk it through properly. But when I came back the next day, you were gone, Sarah said. A note on the counter said not to look for you. She closed her eyes briefly. I know. Do you understand what that did to me?
Sarah's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I thought you had just decided I wasn't worth it. I didn't leave because you weren't worth it. Her voice cracked slightly. I left because I was terrified. Terrified that maybe you were right to hesitate. That maybe I was pushing for something you didn't actually want. And I thought... She stopped. You thought what? I thought you would come after me, or you wouldn't, and either way I'd have my answer. Sarah looked at her steadily. I did come after you. The color drained from her face. Your sister's place, your mom's, that little coffee shop you always went to when you needed to write. I went everywhere I could think of. No one would tell me anything. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. You actually looked for me? For months, Sarah said. Her voice stayed quiet, but there was something underneath it, something that had been pressed down for a very long time. I fell apart, Sarah said simply. I'm not being dramatic. I genuinely fell apart. I couldn't stay in our apartment. I could barely function. My friends were scared for me. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I thought you had just... There's something else, Sarah steadied herself. About 3 weeks after you left, I found out I was pregnant. Complete stillness. What? It came out as barely a sound. It was someone I had been seeing before we got together. We had ended things, but there was one night, just before you and I met. Sarah shook her head. That part doesn't matter. What matters is that I was alone and scared, and the one person I wanted to tell more than anyone else in the world was just gone. The flight attendant sat very still, her face pale, working through the quiet arithmetic of it all. Maya is 8, she said slowly. Yes. You were already pregnant when I walked out. I didn't know yet, but yes. A long, unsteady breath. If I had stayed... You didn't know, Sarah said quietly. I'm not saying it to hurt you, I'm just telling you the whole truth, because you asked. But if I had been there, her voice faltered, would you have wanted me there, raising someone else's child?
Would you have been okay with that? Sarah asked. Raising someone else's child? The flight attendant looked at Maya's sleeping face for a long moment. Something quiet and fierce moved across her expression. I would have loved her because she was yours, she said simply. I would have loved both of you. The straightforwardness of it, no hesitation, no qualification, broke something open in Sarah's chest that she hadn't realized was still sealed shut. I used to think about that sometimes, Sarah admitted. What it would have looked like if you had been there when she was born, her first steps, her first words. What was her first word? Sarah smiled without meaning to. Mama. She was barely 8 months old. I was having a really hard day, missing you, feeling completely overwhelmed by everything, and she just looked right at me and said it, like she knew. She took care of you. She did. She gave me a reason to keep going when I really needed one. A quiet settled over them. 4 years of misunderstanding, sitting between them now like something that had finally been named. I'm sorry, the flight attendant said at last, softly but completely. I'm so sorry, Sarah, for leaving the way I did, for not looking harder, for missing all of it. I'm sorry too, Sarah said, for not fighting harder to keep you, for not saying what I should have said before everything fell apart. It doesn't have to be too late. Sarah looked at her, this person who had once been the center of her whole world, who had broken her heart and was now sitting here in a Navy uniform at 30,000 feet, quietly offering to help put something back together. Doesn't it? Sarah asked. 4 years is a long time. We're not the same people we were. Aren't we? She said gently. Because sitting here right now, it doesn't feel like any time has passed at all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Portland. The captain's voice came through, warm and routine, completely unaware of what it was interrupting. Please return to your seats and make sure your seatbelts are fastened. Sarah felt the shift in the cabin, the slight change in pressure, the angle of the plane tilting gently forward. 20 minutes, maybe less, and then this would be over. I should get back to my station, the flight attendant said. She didn't move. Should, Sarah said quietly, but do you want to? A sad, honest smile. What I want is to go back and do everything differently. What I want is to have been there, to have held your hand through all of it, to have been the first face you saw when it was over. Sarah's breath caught. What I want, she continued, her voice low and steady, is 4 years of ordinary mornings, school drop-offs and scraped knees and holidays. I want to know her favorite color, whether she prefers pancakes or waffles, whether she's scared of the dark. Purple. Her favorite color is purple. She likes both, but only if they're shaped like animals. And she's not scared of the dark, but she won't sleep without her little star projector on the ceiling. The green eyes filled again. Tell me more. She's stubborn. Gets that from me, I think. But she's also the kindest person I've ever met. She loves animals more than almost anything, which is why that rabbit goes everywhere with her. She asks questions constantly, 100 a day at least. She wants to be a vet when she grows up, or a princess, depends entirely on the morning. She sounds wonderful. She's the best thing I've ever done. Gently, carefully, the flight attendant reached over and brushed the hair from Maya's forehead, a gesture so natural it ached. You're lucky to have her. I don't always feel that way, admitted Sarah. Some days I feel like I'm just making it all up as I go, especially when she asks about her dad, or why our family looks different from her friends' families. What do you tell her? The truth, that families come in all different shapes, that different doesn't mean less, that she is loved. Just by you, the flight attendant said quietly. Then, after a pause, Sarah, you don't have to do it alone anymore. If you'd let me, if you'd want that. Want what? To be there, for both of you. A breath. I know I have no right to ask, I know that, but I never stopped loving you, not for a single day, and I already love her, just from these few hours. Sarah's heart was going too fast. It's not that simple, she said. Where do you even live? Wherever the airline puts me, but my base is in Seattle. I'm in Portland. Maya has school, friends, a whole life there. I could request Portland. I could transfer. You'd do that? I'd do whatever it takes, she said, and there was nothing uncertain about it. I'd leave flying entirely if that's what made sense. I never wanted this job, Sarah. I took it because it kept me moving, because moving meant I didn't have to sit still with everything I'd lost. I don't want to keep running, not anymore. Below them, through the small oval window, the city was beginning to appear, lights spreading out in the early evening like something being slowly revealed. The ground was getting closer. I'm scared, Sarah said honestly. I'm scared to trust this again.
I'm scared you'll disappear again the moment things get difficult, Sarah said. I'm scared too, she replied. I'm scared I've already missed too much, that you've built a full life, and I'm just someone who shows up now and reminds you of pain. You're not just that, Sarah said quietly. You're the one I never actually got over, the one who always stayed somewhere in the back of everything. A pause. Really? Do you think I'd still have a hidden photo album on my phone if I'd moved on? She laughed, a soft, unsteady sound that was equal parts happy and heartbroken. Can I see them? Sarah hesitated. Then she reached into her pocket and opened her phone. She scrolled past her regular photos to a folder she had never once been able to bring herself to delete. No label, just tucked away where she wouldn't stumble across it by accident. These might be hard to look at, she said. I want to see them anyway. Sarah opened it and handed the phone over. The first photo was from a weekend trip they'd taken early on, both of them sunburned and laughing at something off camera, leaning into each other like it was the most natural thing in the world. A quiet breath. We look so happy. We were, for a while. She swiped slowly through the rest. 2 years of an ordinary, extraordinary life. Holidays, rainy afternoons indoors, candid moments neither of them had known were being captured. I can't believe you kept all of these. I tried to delete them, Sarah admitted. More than once, I just couldn't ever actually do it. I deleted everything, the flight attendant said softly. Right after I left, I thought it would help me move forward. A pause. It didn't. It just felt like I'd erased the best part of my own life. The plane touched down with a soft, settled bump, and Sarah felt something drop quietly in her chest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Portland. The captain's voice was cheerful and completely ordinary. Local time is 5:12 in the evening. Thank you for flying with us today. Around them, the cabin came back to life, phones lighting up, overhead bins opening, the shuffle and rustle of people returning to their real lives. Sarah and the flight attendant sat still. Neither moved first. What happens now? Sarah asked. I don't know, she said honestly. What do you want to happen? Sarah looked at Maya, still drowsy against the window, completely unaware that the last 2 hours had quietly shifted something. I want to try, Sarah said. Slowly, carefully. I have to think about Maya first. I can't let her get close to someone who might not stay. I'll stay, she said, not loudly, but with a certainty that was different from reassurance. It was something quieter and more solid than that. I know I don't get to just say that and have it mean everything, but I'm not the same person who left. I know what walking away cost me. I'm not doing it again. How do I know that? Because I'm not scared the same way anymore. Because I've spent 4 years understanding exactly what I gave up. And because I'm here, telling you the truth instead of running from it. The plane had fully stopped. Passengers were standing, stretching, pulling bags from overhead. Maya blinked awake slowly, taking in the cabin with sleepy eyes. Are we here? We're here, love, Sarah said, smoothing her hair gently. Maya looked around and found the familiar face immediately. Oh, hi. Are you coming to see Grandma and Grandpa with us? A soft, genuine smile. Not this time. I have to work. But you could come visit us, Maya said with the easy, uncomplicated hope that only children seem to carry effortlessly. Mom doesn't really have that many friends. Maya, Sarah started, but the flight attendant was already smiling, properly this time, all the way through. I'd really like that, if your mom says it's all right. Maya turned. Is it, Mom? Sarah looked across at her, hope and uncertainty and something that never quite gone away, all present at once in those familiar green eyes. Yeah, Sarah said softly. It's all right. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the departure lounge of the Portland airport with Maya's hand in hers, watching planes move slowly across the tarmac. The visit had been exactly what her parents had hoped for, warm and easy and full. But Sarah's mind kept drifting, back to the flight, back to the conversation, back to the question of what came next. A text had arrived the evening before, a simple one, asking if it would be okay to swap onto the return flight. Sarah had typed yes before she had a chance to second-guess herself. Is your friend going to be on the plane again? Maya asked as they walked toward the gate. Maybe, Sarah said, though her heart already knew the answer. They boarded, and Sarah's eyes found her almost immediately, near the front of the cabin, helping an older gentleman lift his bag into the overhead, calm and attentive and completely herself. When she looked up and saw them walking down the aisle, something in her expression shifted completely, open and warm and unguarded in a way that made Sarah's chest feel full. Welcome back, she said as they reached their row. How was the visit? Grandma and Grandpa got a puppy, Maya announced, absolutely unable to contain it. His name is Cooper, and he's so fluffy, and he kept sitting on my feet. That sounds perfect, she said, and the warmth in her voice was completely genuine. Did you get photos? Mom took about 1 million, Maya said, with the world-weary exaggeration only an 8-year-old can pull off. Maybe I'll get to see them sometime, she said, glancing over at Sarah. Maybe you will,
Sarah said quietly. They settled in, and Sarah noticed during all the pre-flight business up and down the aisle that there always seemed to be a reason to pass their row, each time a brief look, a small smile, and something that had been cold and still inside Sarah for 4 years kept quietly, steadily warming. The flight to Portland was smooth from the start, no turbulence at all. Sarah caught herself almost wishing for just a little. About halfway through, the flight attendant appeared beside their row with 2 apple juices and a coffee. "Thought you might want something," she said simply, handing Maya hers. "Thank you," Maya said, then immediately, "Are you going to sit with us again?" A look toward Sarah. Sarah nodded. She slipped into the aisle seat, easy and unhurried. "So, tell me about this puppy." Maya needed absolutely no further invitation. She launched into a full and enthusiastic account of Cooper's personality, his habits, his specific relationship with the living room rug, and his feelings about being picked up. The flight attendant listened with complete attention, asking follow-up questions, laughing at exactly the right moments. Sarah just watched. It was effortless, natural in the way that some things simply are. "He sounds like a very special dog," the flight attendant said when Maya finally paused. "He is. Grandma said maybe we could get one too, but our apartment doesn't allow pets." "That's a shame. Every kid should have a pet." Maya's eyes lit up. "Did you have pets?" "A cat, orange and white, extremely round because he kept sneaking food from the neighbors." Maya dissolved into giggles. "What was his name?" "Biscuit." More giggles. "I want a cat and a dog and maybe a hamster." "That is a serious amount of responsibility." "I'm very responsible," Maya said firmly. "I brush my teeth every night and I put my things away. Mostly." Sarah smiled into her coffee. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Portland." The captain's voice came through warm and routine. Sarah felt the shift, in altitude and in something else. "Ava," she said quietly, "what does your schedule look like this week?" "I'm off for the next 4 days." Sarah took a breath. "Would you want to have dinner with us tomorrow? Nothing elaborate, just pizza and a movie. A chance to keep talking." The smile that followed was immediate and completely unguarded. "I would love that." "Can we watch my movie?" Maya asked, having obviously been listening to the whole exchange. "The one with the ocean and the singing?" "I love that movie," the flight attendant said. "I know every single word." Maya's eyes went wide. "Every word?" "Every word. Even the fast part?" "Especially the fast part." Maya turned to Sarah with an expression of complete approval. The matter apparently was settled. The plane touched down smoothly, rolling gently to a stop. Around them, the cabin came back to life with the familiar sounds of seatbelts and overhead bins and phones reconnecting to the world. "I should let you get moving," the flight attendant said as passengers began to stand. "I have post-flight checks." "Of course," Sarah said. She stood, helped Maya with her bag, then paused. "Hey, thank you for all of it. The turbulence, the listening, coming back." "Thank you for letting me," she said softly. "I mean that." They made their way up the aisle. At the door, Sarah glanced back. She was watching them go. Sarah lifted her hand in a small, quiet wave. "Tomorrow," she mouthed. A nod, a smile, the real kind. They walked through the airport together, Maya skipping slightly beside her, already talking about Cooper and the flight and their new friend all in one long, enthusiastic breath. "Mom," she said suddenly, "are you still scared of flying?" Sarah thought about it honestly. "A little, but less than before." "Because of her?" "Because of a lot of things," Sarah said. "But yes, partly because of her." "I like her," Simply said. "She's kind, and you smile more when she's around." Sarah realized her daughter was right. She was smiling. Not the practiced kind, not the one that fooled everyone, the real one. "Yeah," she said softly, "she does make me smile."
The next evening, Sarah had rearranged the pizza slices on the plates 3 times. She'd changed her outfit twice, checked her reflection in every mirror she walked past, and was now standing in the kitchen pretending to be very calm about the whole thing. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. "She's here!" Maya launched herself toward the front door. "Wait, Maya, let me—" The door was already open.
She stood on the doorstep looking genuinely nervous, which was somehow the most reassuring thing Sarah had seen in days. Jeans and a soft green sweater, a small bunch of purple flowers in one hand and a neatly wrapped gift in the other. "Hi," she said. Her eyes found Sarah's over Maya's head. "Hi," Sarah said back, just that. "Purple," Maya announced, spotting the flowers immediately. "That's my favorite color." "I know," she said, crouching down to Maya's level. "Your mom mentioned it, and I brought you something else, too." Maya took the package and had it open in approximately 4 seconds. Inside was a small stuffed elephant, soft gray with lavender-colored ears. "She matches the rabbit," Maya held it up, "but she's an elephant." "Her name is Iris, because of the purple." Maya hugged it immediately and completely. "I love her. Thank you." Sarah felt her eyes sting. She had remembered every single thing. "Come in," Sarah said, stepping back. "I hope you're hungry. Maya may have ordered enough pizza for an entire neighborhood." "I'm very hungry," she said, and followed them inside. Sarah watched her quietly take in the apartment, the framed photos along the hallway, Maya's drawings held to the fridge with mismatched magnets, the comfortable, slightly chaotic warmth of a home built entirely around a child. When her eyes settled on a photo of Sarah and Maya at the beach, Maya mid-laugh, both of them sunburned and happy, her expression went soft. "You have a really lovely home." "It's small," Sarah said, "but it's ours." Dinner was warm and easy in a way Sarah hadn't expected. Maya carried most of the conversation, moving from school to her friends to her extremely detailed plans for her upcoming birthday, barely pausing between topics. The flight attendant listened like every word mattered, asking follow-up questions, laughing without any performance in it. "And Sophie said unicorns definitely aren't real," Maya said at one point, very seriously. "But I told her that just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there." "I think you're completely right," she said. "Some of the most important things are invisible." Sarah caught her eye across the table. A look passed between them that said more than either of them could put into words in front of an 8-year-old. After dinner, they moved to the couch for the movie. Maya arranged herself between the two of them with complete authority, one stuffed animal under each arm. When the opening song started, she began to sing along under her breath. Maya's head swung around in delight. "You actually know it." "Every word," she confirmed. And just like that, they were singing together, slightly off-key and completely unself-conscious, while Sarah sat beside them and felt something loosen in her chest that had been wound tight for a very long time. Halfway through, Maya's eyes closed. She drifted off against a warm shoulder, completely at ease, her breathing slow and even. The flight attendant looked down at her with an expression so unguarded it was almost hard to watch. "She's incredible," she whispered. "You've done something really remarkable with her." "I had a lot of help," Sarah said softly. "My parents, good friends. It takes a whole team." "But you were the one there every day, every scraped knee and bedtime story and hard question. That was you." "I'm not as brave as that sounds." "You got on a plane," she said gently. "You let me sit down. You opened the door tonight. That's all brave, Sarah. Every bit of it." Sarah looked at Maya's sleeping face, peaceful and completely trusting. "I want this to work. I need to know you mean it, that when things get hard, and they will get hard, you won't just disappear again." "I'm not going anywhere," she said, steady and clear. "I meant everything I said on that plane. I'll transfer, I'll restructure my whole schedule, whatever makes sense. And if Maya needs time, if she needs us to go slowly, then we go slowly. She sets the pace. I'm not here to rush anything or replace anyone.
I just want to be here, in whatever way works for both of you." Sarah reached across and took her free hand, the one not gently supporting Maya's sleeping weight. "I still love you," she said quietly. "I don't think I ever really stopped, but I'm scared. I love you too, and I'm scared too, but maybe this time we can be scared together instead of scared apart." "Together," Sarah said. The word felt unfamiliar after 4 years of doing everything alone, but it also felt quietly and unexpectedly like something that fit. On the screen, the music swelled, something about distance and longing and finding your way back to where you belong. Sarah thought about the last 4 years, all the driving instead of flying, all the careful avoidance, all the things she'd worked so hard not to feel, and how a 2-hour flight had quietly undone all of it. "Hey," she said softly. "Yeah, next time I have to fly somewhere, I think I'll be okay." A slow smile, the real one, the one that reached everything. "I'll be there, for as long as you'll have me, both of you." Sarah looked at the 3 of them on that small couch, Maya asleep, Iris and the rabbit tucked in her arms, the soft glow of the television, the quiet that felt full rather than empty, and felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Outside, the evening sky was crossed with the small blinking lights of planes heading in every direction. Other people, other journeys, other moments happening all at once across the world. But Sarah wasn't looking at the sky. She was already home. If this story stayed with you, please consider subscribing for more journeys like this one. Share it with someone who believes that second chances are real, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had a moment where something you were afraid of led you somewhere you were meant to be? I read every single one. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, the bumpiest flights sometimes bring you to the most beautiful places.